As you all know, I am the founder and artistic director of Opera Cecilia. It has been a while since I have posted one of these videos. I am so sorry. I ended up getting really sick for like 2 weeks. Luckily it wasn't the Rona or anything like that, but it was kind of had me down for the count. So it's been a little while since I've been able to make a video, but I'm super happy to be back. I'm so excited to be back sharing my insights on all of this wonderful music with all of you. We have a super exciting artist we're going to go over today, but very briefly at the beginning of this video, I wanted to make a few announcements regarding Opera Cecilia and our other projects. So as you know, we are an opera company that produces our own shows and our own musical content, as well as reviewing other artists through the Artistic Director Reaction Analysis series. But we recently actually recorded and produced an entirely virtual version of the second performance of our season, which was Messiah by Candlelight. This is excerpts from the beautiful Handel's Messiah, which has become a part of a lot of people's Christmas or otherwise holiday traditions. It's a beautiful oratorio work by Handel, and I appear as a soloist in it. My husband also appears as a soloist, and we have some other amazing emerging artists and an amazing collaborative pianist that we worked with on that project. We recorded a completely virtual version that has an interwoven, really fun storyline in it, and all of that is available to you online. So if you click on my website in the description, it'll bring you to the webpage for Opera Cecilia. I have a whole webpage dedicated to my company on my website, and that has information for how you can donate to our PayPal and get access to our online production. It is only a $5 ticket price, $5 US, and it is a fantastic show. I'm so proud of all the artists that were a part of it. So I really hope you consider checking that out. That is available indefinitely, so you can purchase it and get access to it anytime, as well as the virtual version of our inaugural production of Orfeo ed Eurydice by Gluck. The second announcement is that if you haven't already seen it, I released an original single that I collaborated with my husband and another musician friend of ours who is wonderful and talented, Aaron Carney. I collaborated with them on the project. The single is called The Gift, and that has been released to the YouTube channel. So I will also link that video in the description. If you haven't already checked out that single, please do, because it came straight from my soul to all of yours, and I hope you enjoy. I am super excited to announce the artist that I will be analyzing / reacting to today, and that is none other than the incomparable Björk. And I hope I'm saying that name right. I looked it up. We're going to be getting a little bit into some background research on her at the beginning of this video as part of my analysis, but I wanted to stress a couple important points at the beginning of this video. First of all of these artists that I'm reacting to and analyzing in this series, I don't claim to be the end-all be-all expert on these artists. I'm sharing my own research, sort of my version of me taking you on the journey of me discovering some of these artists or rediscovering them in some ways and gaining my own insights by learning more about their background. Some of these artists that you all recommended to me, like Angelina Jordan, for example, were brand new artists to me at the time. And so it's important for me to do my due diligence and try to continue to research and learn more about these artists. But sometimes you are coming across my first impressions of things. And I just really appreciate all of you going on the nerdy journey with me. For anybody who may be brand new to the artist that comes across this video, for them to get a little bit of an introduction along with me. But really, I'm taking you on my own learning journey. So this is a humbling and fun aspect of the videos that I hope you continue to enjoy. Totally continue to give me information on them that you think I should know in the comments. I love that. I love having the opportunity to learn from all of you. So this is all a collaboration between all of us as we continue to discover these artists on a deeper level together. And I love the fact that I'm always learning new things about these artists, and I'm always being introduced to new fandoms through the series. So thank you so much to all who have given positive and lovely and constructive feedback to this channel as I continue to grow it and up the quality of these videos. I always keep you all in mind, and I hope you continue to enjoy the nerdy journey too. We're going to get into a tiny research on the artist Björk, and we're going to be analyzing and reacting to Intruders. Björk is an Icelandic musician, as I said before. She was born November 21st, 1965 in Reykjavik. Definitely one of my bucket list locations. She is a singer-songwriter and actress that's best known for her solo work, covering a wide variety of musical styles. I like to use Britannica over Wiki whenever I can for succinct biographies because Britannica is peer-reviewed and a little bit more reliable. She integrates electronic and organic sounds, and her music frequently explores the relationship between nature and technology, which I find very interesting and very prevalent in the music of hers that I've heard so far. Once again, this is a new artist for me, so I'm discovering her as we're doing this video. Björk recorded her first solo album, a collection of cover versions of popular songs, as an 11-year-old music student in 1977, so quite young. Throughout her teens, she performed with various short-lived bands, ending up at age 18 with, I think it's called Kukul, a punk group that eventually became the Sugar Cubes. With Björk as lead vocalist, the Sugar Cubes won acclaim in the United Kingdom with their first album, Life's Too Good, and then they went on to record 2 more albums over the next 5 years together before the band broke up and Björk embarked on a solo career. After moving to London, she released her debut, her first international solo album, in 1993. It was a departure from the harder edge sound of the Sugar Cubes and included a wide variety of musical styles ranging from techno-pop to jazz. She has like a characteristically throbbing synthesized track in her her follow-up album Post called Army of Me. I'm gonna have to check out that piece. And it says, I just love the fact that they described it as throbbing and synthesized, and it's accompanied by kind of the familiar breathy yodel that we associate with this singer that is very kind of like trademark hers. Never content to conform, which I definitely got that impression from her. Björk in 1997 released her most experimental work to date, Telegram, an entire album of Post remixes, and Homogenic, a studio effort with collaborator Mark Bell. They also worked together on a body of work called Selma Songs, which was the score for Lars van Trier's Dancer in the Dark, which is a tragic musical in which she also starred. And she actually won an award at the Cannes Film Festival and was named Best Actress for that film. So she is an actress as well. It says that she released a few other albums and then eventually ended up getting to the album that Earth Intruders is on, which is called Volta. And this is considered a very eclectic album, and it boasted somber brass arrangements, African rhythms, and guest production from Timbaland. Timbaland has collaborated with a number of popular artists in the past. Super, super cool. After watching a few interviews with her in regard to the album Volta, she also traveled to some new places and were experiencing some new milestones in her life. I think at one point she mentioned that she had recently had a child around the time that she was creating this album. So there were a lot of very, very earthy, very culturally driven influences and a lot of different sounds that were incorporated into this album. She has a very interesting sonic landscape to all of her work. That's what I'm noticing. Some of her albums include Birdsong. It looks like she has like an album called Medulla that has all vocals and vocal samples based album that features beatboxers, Icelandic and British choirs, traditional Inuit vocalists. This makes for a lot of variety musically in every single one of her albums, and all of her songs, while they're very characteristically her and authentic to her, they also are very distinct from each other. And that's something that I really appreciate from an artist. They're always willing to kind of travel to new spaces and experiment with new sounds for every single body of work that they create. As a response to the financial turmoil that rocked Iceland in 2008, Björk partnered with an Icelandic venture capital firm to establish a fund that would invest in socially and ecologically responsible businesses, and she was awarded the Polar Music Prize for Lifetime Achievement by the Royal Swedish Academy of Music in 2010. She's also taken part in some like World Help and humanitarian work in her career as well. Some of the lyrics that you'll hear in this piece are very visceral and ethereal to me, but also very primal and very earthy. Sometimes they may seem a little bit like an oxymoron or like she's contradicting herself, but I think that just adds to all of the intrigue of this music, even though the meaning is sort of intentionally ambiguous to a certain extent. It's like really in your face and ambiguous at the same time, which I find super interesting. Some of the lyrics you'll hear are, "We are the earth intruders, muddy with twigs and branches, turmoil, carnage. Here come the earth intruders, the paratroopers, stampede of sharpshooters, come straight from voodoo, with their feet thumping, or feet marching, grinding skeptics into the soil." These earth intruders seem to be doing like bad and good things at the same time. There's a lot of that happening. There's a lot of an interplay between things that we might consider a positive and things we might consider a negative. I have guided my bones through some voltage. I loved them still and loved them too. Metallic carnage, ferocity, feel the speed. We are the earth intruders, the sharpshooters, parachuters, necessary voodoo. The song, in my opinion, encapsulates this complicated nature that we have with Mother Earth. This really, really contradictory nature where we're like necessary, but at the same time have a tendency to be destructive. And we're really clumsy about our relationship with the planet. There was this one comment down here. The user's name is called Vivi Blackmist. And they had a very insightful thing to say. They said, I wasn't sure what to think of this song at first. While it has a killer beat and awesome vocals, the message of the song was a bit unclear. After a bit of consideration, I think I figured out an interpretation that seems to fit it best. I believe that the earth intruders she speaks of are us humans, killing the earth we live on and causing destruction and turmoil to the plants and animals. Digging bones out of the ground and necessary voodoo were two lines that had me thinking for a while, but I think that digging bones out of the ground is a way to describe us destroying the earth in an attempt to find such things as fossils and fossil fuels. Necessary voodoo is causing destruction and death in an attempt to tame the wilderness and or cause war as a means to get what we want from places that we shouldn't. And the line, forgive this tribe, seems to be a desperate attempt of one person who cares to apologize for the acts of the rest of their kind. Some people actually kind of compared this piece to like Titans, the pagan creators, the Didonum, the golden ones, the ancestors of Osiris. Like there's kind of religious or pagan connotations to the piece. I didn't necessarily get that right away from this, but I can understand how that could be an interpretation, and that very well could have been an inspiration. She does describe the sounds or the sonic landscape of this album in an interview as pagan. I don't necessarily think she means that it has specific religious connotations to it, but she did describe some of the previous sounds on her other albums with cleaner instruments, cleaner just meaning like more conventionally kind of classical sounds, Western classical music type sounds, as being a little bit more of the celestial with the use of like harps or the glockenspiel or things like that. And then she's using a lot more primal instruments or ancient cultural instruments for this album. Different geographical cultural instruments as well. And so she described it as a little bit more pagan, and I think what she means is just a little bit more earthy or of this planet, or a little bit more about the human race and human-centered versus trying to reflect something of the divine or something that might be above us to a certain extent. That's mostly what I was kind of gleaning from what she said in the interview. She's a very fascinating person to watch in interviews. So she also created kind of a podcast about the creation of the album Volta, and I'll see if I can link that video below so you can check out that podcast if you haven't already seen it. Like I said, this is a newer artist for me, so I don't claim to be an end-all be-all expert, but I'm having so much fun learning about her, and I hope you're having fun with me. So without further ado, we're going to watch the music video for Earth Intruders, and we'll talk a little bit about what you see in the music video and some of the things I discovered about that as we watch, and a little bit about her vocal technique as well. Love it. Okay, so this is such a fascinating piece to me. We're gonna stop there because there's a lot to unpack just at the beginning. So we get into the music video and we hear the sounds of like squishing mud underneath toes. That's probably the best way you could describe it. Or like the sound of people trudging through the mud, marching through the mud. And she's really unafraid to show all of the realistic noises of that, even like the really like squishy, kind of like unaesthetically pleasing noises, or noises that make, I don't know, they kind of made me recoil a little bit at the very beginning of this video. But I think it shows the realism, but also like the mysticism that this video is trying to show at the same time. And so I think it's really cool that she incorporates those noises there, and they get a very visceral, earthy reaction from the listener right off the bat. What I also think is so fascinating is this video has like a very, very earthy kind of like tribal influence to it, with the tribal people dancing and sort of expressing themselves through headdress or through big exaggerated body movements. And that's very kind of seems of the earth, or very inherently human, or kind of goes back to like the ancient roots of the human race and kind of like our anthropological history. But at the same time, we have all of these psychedelic kind of otherworldly colors happening in the background. And I think it just adds to that idea of like chaos, carnage, turmoil, all of these things that the human race has added to the world. But at the same time, necessary voodoo, or came from voodoo as a result of that, because I love the word necessary in this piece that comes up later, because we're a part of the ecosystem. We are a species that came in this planet, and we have moved the earth forward in many ways, and we have done good things for the earth too, but we have such a tumultuous relationship with the earth because we've made so many mistakes, and we've separated ourselves and taken steps to kind of try to tame the rest of the earth as well, when maybe we should have just been living in harmony with it this entire time. And maybe we would have less suffering, maybe less turmoil and less carnage if we did so. In regard to her vocal technique, this song kind of gets right into it right off the bat. There's a ton of percussion. It's a very percussion driven piece, and she allows her vocals to reflect that percussion and that strong beat that this piece has. There's a little bit of syncopation in this piece where she's singing off the dominant beat as well, which you will hear as the song continues. But what is so cool about her vocalisms is they're gritty and they're raw, and she's using a lot of what I call intentional vocal distortion, which is adding growls or other type of visceral primeval noises to your voice to aid in expression. And she has kind of like a metal or rock influence or background to her vocals, which you can tell. But there's always this like very from the body grounding to it. Like, I don't worry about it. I don't worry about any of the vocal distortion being too much, because she has a default of going back to cleaner, clearer noises as well as kind of her foundation, and she's growing off of that. So what she's doing vocally, it seems very spontaneous and from the gut, but I honestly think a lot of it is highly intentional and calculated. She is an artist that knows how to use her voice well. I know, this is so cool. Sharpshooters, rock of parachuters, necessary voodoo. She is going very, very intentionally harsh with her consonants, especially her onsets. Big bones, ashes. You're hearing it with carnage, voltage, like all of these words. She is going very, very severe on her initial beginnings of the word, particularly if they start with a consonant. Not only does it play into the percussive nature of this piece, but it also plays into kind of this weird, complicated relationship that we have with our own humanity, where we like love it and we love the fact that we exist and we want to exist and we want to do good things, but we're also like really frustrated and kind of angry and filled with rage at a lot of things too. And so she seems to encapsulate all of that so beautifully at the same time with the way that she's choosing to vocalize in this piece. It kind of reminds me how it's kind of in repeated patterns that have like slight changes and subtleties, whether it's in the melodic line, in the lyrics, in the ornaments that she's choosing to do, where she goes now into kind of necessary voodoo, like where she does like some of those very, very interesting vocal affectations. It's all kind of building on itself up to this like really climactic point, but it's all very repetitious. That adds to it. And that totally reminds me of post 20th century experimental music in the Western world. And there was this movement called Minimalism. And there's composers like John Adams who composed operas like Nixon in China and things like that, works like that. And he did an amazing symphonic piece for choir called Harmonium too, which kind of encapsulate the ideas of minimalism. What I mean by musical minimalism is not necessarily that the instrumentation or the vocalism in itself sounds minimalistic, but that it's using a minimal amount of new melodic material, but it's taking that material, using it over and over again with very subtle changes each time. It's kind of like a snowball rolling downhill, and you as the audience member cannot help but kind of want to roll down the hill with the snowball. I've always been super intrigued by that musical style, and I feel like there's elements of that in this, or at least similarities to the way that she formatted this piece to kind of that minimalistic movement in post 20th century music. I just find that so interesting, or just 20th century music, I guess. There could have been like a lot of variety of musical influences, and I don't know if she was specifically thinking of minimalism or recalling minimalism in this piece. Is definitely in this type of piece that is repetitious, but every repetition has subtle differences, and you're just kind of holding on to it like with bated breath, and you want to know what happens next, and it's almost entrancing or hypnotizing.
Intruders, stampede of resistance. We are the coloniers, necessary voodoo. We are the earth's intruders. We are the earth's intruders. Nothing with tricks and grudges. For our intruders, we are the earth's intruders. Nothing with tricks and grudges.
Earth Intruders is so fascinating. This is such a cool piece of music. And what I love especially about the end is that it ends on just the repeated word march, march. And you get the close-up of Björk's face, and you don't know if she's going to do anything next. She's kind of intensely staring at you, and it's like borderline creepy, but at the same time, it's so visceral. And it's kind of like, did you get the message of the song? This is who we are. As humans, we are chaos. I heard, I saw some other fans and some fandom sites about this artist say that they don't really know if the lyrics make sense to them in this piece. And I think that's partially the point, because humanity, if you think about it, doesn't really make sense. There's a lot about our history that's like very confusing, and we're very complex, and it's hard to know what to think of us as a species sometimes. We're also necessary for this planet's healing. We're a big part of how this planet can move forward in a healthier way, and I think it's really important for us to realize that, because I think at the end of the day, us helping the planet prevents our own destruction as a race as well, because we were meant to exist with nature instead of against against it. I know that a lot of people have been getting other meanings from it as well. So if you have a different interpretation of the lyrics or of anything that's happening sonically in this piece, totally let me know. It was directed by Michael, I think it's Ocelot. It was accomplished within strict time constraints through a combination of live action, silhouette animation, 3D computer graphics, traditional animation, cutouts, and other special effects. Curacao was danced by Le Grand Bemba Debert. I hope I'm pronouncing that name right. I'm so sorry if I'm not. In a costume made based on Ocelot's ideas by paper sculptor Anne, I think it's Anne Lisa Cooler. There's a lot of names that are difficult to pronounce here that unfortunately I didn't have the time to look up. I hope I'm honoring these artists by pronouncing the name at least close to right. A preview was shown during Le Grand Journal show on French TV channel Canal on the 17th of April 2007. The full video was made available on the iTunes store on the 24th of April. It features Björk's face floating in the background in a couple different orientations. First upright, singing with her eyes closed, or then upright, singing with her eyes closed, and then first upside down. And in the foreground, there's a large troupe of silhouetted tribal warriors that dance in time to the music. The video features psychedelic colors and patterns imposed on an earthy backdrop. So there's all sorts of juxtapositions in this video, just like we have so many juxtapositions to humankind. So I just thought it was interesting to include a little bit of that information as well. That was the first piece that really resonated with me that I heard of hers. There are a few other pieces that I quite enjoy of hers as well. She's definitely a unique artist, very avant-garde, very alternative, and I know she's not everybody's cup of tea, and she's very different from the other artists that I have on this channel. It's so cool that artists like hers have a place in the music industry as well, because they make such unique statements with their music. Both Tanis and I will be back with more consistent content on this channel now that I'm feeling better, and I hope everybody had a fantastic holiday season. Please let me know if you have any other recommendations for Björk songs that I can listen to that really resonate with you. Like I said, this is a newer artist to me. And also, please feel free to check out Messiah by Candlelight or my new single, The Gift, if you feel so compelled. We would love to have you with those projects. I hope to see you all around here again soon, and have a wonderful rest of your days. All right, bye.